Live streamed it. Now, I'm fully aware that we may hear from Jerome Powell about the reduction of interest rates or not, even though Federal Reserve governors are all over him about it, and they're going to start getting loud about it because they don't want Trump's ire. Then again, it might be the right move. I've got a very detailed conversation with Dr. Matt Will, economist at University of Indianapolis, to get to, and more about how much the New York Times lies. And I think Megyn Kelly got something very wrong, worthy of discussion. But that is not my top story. That is coming up. The radio show is about to begin. I'm Tony Katz. It's Tony Katz Today. Let's go, let's go, let's go. For everything that is going on right now in the United States, around the globe, the lies of the New York Times regarding Israel, how I think conservatives like Megyn Kelly have really got the wrong idea, how progressives like the Obama bros who do Pod Save America, they don't quite understand how bigoted their party is. You think they're talking about something new? Boo-boo. Please. You have got Catholics under attack in the Congo, being killed by Islamists. Can we at least admit that Islamists are indeed an issue the globe over, and that hasn't gone away, even if we haven't been talking about it? Tariffs and this economy with a GDP going at 3%. 3%! Holy cow! That is some movement right there. And the leader of the White House Economic Council, Kevin Hassett, says next quarter, even bigger. That's not my top story. The shooting in New York, they're trying to go after the NFL headquarters. Still not my top story. Sydney Sweeney, yeah, we get it. Now it's no longer about jeans. It's about the Jews. Spell that with 19 O's if you like. Still not my top story. My top story is the Senate. Tony Katz Today. 833-468-8669, 833-GOT-TONY. That's how you get to be a part of the program. Can someone explain to me why the United States Senate is slow rolling confirmations? What exactly in all the good holy hell is going on? John Thune runs the Senate. John Thune is the Senate Majority Leader. He took over for Mitch McConnell. And he is supposed to be a guy who's all about it, getting things done, getting things accomplished. Why in the world do you have ambassadors and cabinet secretary level positions not being confirmed? 255 people have been voted out of committee to be voted on by the full Senate. 107 have been confirmed. What about the rest? Why isn't this done? Why isn't this moving with speed and alacrity? For what reason are we slow rolling? I don't have an answer. My problem is I don't think they have an answer either. Because what they're putting out there, Daily Signal with the reporting, Jacob Adams reporting there. Republicans say it's Democrat obstructionism, with Schumer throwing up procedural hurdles that have led to Democrats preventing confirmations being passed by unanimous consent. Okay, where is the conversation happening from the Republicans that, hey, these lowlifes over here are preventing us from getting people confirmed in a speedy way. We should be putting pressure on them to get them to stop. At least we should publicly shame them, or maybe call Chuck Schumer a punk loser every now and again. Why isn't there at least, I gave you a whole bunch of options. You can pick any one you like. Why is there nothing? Why is there this rolling over and, hey, take a look at my belly? The hell is going on here? Chuck Schumer is the guy I got to be concerned with. I got to be scared of? The same Chuck Schumer who wants you to know that Jim Crow is coming back?
It's been clear. When we fight for democracy, when we protect democracy, we got to fight fire with fire. We're not going to stand idly by, as Maya said. We're not going to let them revert to Jim Crow. And if you don't think they want to revert to Jim Crow, just look what they did.
When Chuck Schumer says Republicans are racist reverting to Jim Crow, 20 Republicans should show up at his office and tell him to shut up. They should call him a lowlife, you know what, every name in the book, and then make fun of his sister and then walk out. The only way you make this stop is if you make it stop. And right now, Republicans ain't making it stop. What exactly are you doing? Procedural hurdles from Democrats? Don't go home. Don't sleep. Go Votorama. Go 24/7 for a week. That old man can't keep up with you. And by the way, call him an old man. Chuck Schumer makes Joe Biden look adept. Chuck Schumer makes Joe Biden look like a competent leader. Chuck Schumer makes Kamala Harris look like a class act. It doesn't matter what you say, just keep at it. Make this stop. Because what we see from the Republican Party is acquiescence. Like somehow there's a plan at play. You don't understand the plan, Tony. There's a system and we're going to do this. And if we wait a little bit, we do that. And then what will get done over here? Would you stop it? This is about not having a stomach. You have got an entire press corps screaming about Jeffrey Epstein. When you know they don't give a damn about Jeffrey Epstein, they don't care about children being sex trafficked or sexually abused. They care about whether or not they can hurt Trump. Where are the Republicans saying that en masse? It should be a constant refrain. It should be press conferences on Capitol Hill. You should be interrupting Democrats when they're appearing on MSNBC to call them lying low-life frauds when they're engaged in activity that is worthy of them being called lying low-life frauds. They don't care about who got hurt by Jeffrey Epstein and his sexual predilections. They don't care that children were abused. They only care because they want Trump. They only care for their political purposes. Tell us, tell the world, tell the nation that Democrats don't care about children based on their actions. There's a fight in the Republican Party, although it's not a rift. These people are still behind President Trump. That hasn't changed because some of us demand the release of these things about Epstein, and some say it doesn't matter. Why are we focusing on it? This is all just about the Democrats. It's no big deal. Of course it's a big deal, and we were right all along. And the people who said don't focus about it, including President Trump, were wrong on this one. That's all. We're not mortal enemies. I think Megyn Kelly is wrong about Israel. I don't think we're mortal enemies. I'll get into that coming up. We have the ability to disagree without somehow everybody losing their damn minds. We can do this. But it's very difficult when we won't look at the Democratic Party and the media apparatus that controls them, supports them, lives for them, and dies for them and say, you don't know that that Democrat doesn't care about children? You're ridiculous. What's wrong with you? That Democrat doesn't care about kids. I've been saying this about Ocasio-Cortez for years now. She doesn't care about black and brown children being trafficked across the border. She doesn't give a damn. 4 years of Joe Biden, she never showed up at the border to cry. If you don't show up at the border to cry, at least every 4.5 months, you don't care about children. Ocasio-Cortez, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, does not care about black and brown children being shepherded across the border for sex trafficking or anything else. She doesn't care. Not because I say so, because she said so. Democrats do not care about children being sex trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, what Prince Andrew was involved with, and doesn't care that anybody else within their ranks may have been involved, which is why, of course, we want the data. They care that it can hurt Trump. They want political power more than they want safe children. Say so. They're disrupting confirmation. They're putting up procedural hurdles. My God, I'll say it, engage it rhetorically. Would you just punch somebody in the neck already? What does it take? You're just going to lay back and take this? I'm sorry. I don't know how this isn't a bigger story. I am actually shocked that we're not getting it. The Daily Signal has a nice write-up here. And if you take a look, it says at the end of President Joe Biden's first 8 months in office, August 2021, 150 of his civilian nominees were confirmed, 74%. So in Trump's first term, you've got 130 civilian nominees. Now, they say that's about 76% of those reported. So you argue the same percentage, but not the same number of people. And these are civilian nominees. But if you tell me that it's Democrat obstructionism and you aren't focused on ending the obstructionism through just full-on embarrassment, shaming them, and utilizing what exists out there to try and get movement, I don't know what you're doing. What are you waiting for? Slowly, this will get done? And what is this that we hear about the idea of keeping the Senate open? Follow me on this. There's this we can call it a rumor. This concept going around that somehow, to avoid Senate recess appointments, to which the president has power to do, the Senate is in recess. Okay, you work in this position, you work in that position, you've been appointed, your recess appointment's done. There's this idea that the Senate will remain open, and every third day they'll be gavelled into session for an hour. So therefore, there is no recess. So therefore, no recess appointments. What are you doing? What is this? Now, I could use a little confirmation on that. I have heard this now a couple times. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me at all. Well, neither does not confirming these nominees. Mike Lee, senator from Utah, saying at the current pace, it'll be April 2026 before we confirm the 135 Trump nominees now pending in the Senate. What are we waiting for? What possibly are we waiting for? Democrats have power when they're in the minority? No. Crush them. The best Chuck Schumer could do to try and rally the troops is say Republicans want Jim Crow laws when it comes to voting because we demand voter ID. They don't want poor people and black people to vote. This is the best he could do. A conversation that he cribbed from Stacey Abrams in 2022. Yeah, I think this guy is soft. I think he's weak. I think he's a punk. And I am not going to even talk about what I think about his mother. When a guy is that much of an obstructionist and calling you a racist, I think you could talk about his mother. When they call you a racist, you could talk about their meemaw. I think that's very, very loud. I know the meemaw is the grandma, but go with me. Take him out. Nah, that's considered violent, and I don't want that. Politically, take his legs out from under him. Yeah, I'm allowed to say that, so I'll say that. Politically, take his legs out from under him. Start throwing it right at him. Overwhelm him. Don't stop. But this being silent stuff and this delay stuff, my God, Republicans, I thought you had learned something already. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. not even making an argument that's like out of the realm. It's not an unreasonable argument. What are you waiting for? Just start a damn fight, Stephen. I mean, it wasn't my intent to bring the heat today, but I don't know what we're doing. I have no idea what in the world we're doing. What in the world? So, just a really weird story. Sometimes you realize that you've got stuff in a place. You're like, why do I have this here? What's going on here? What's happening? I have receipts that I was supposed to submit for reimbursement, and I now need a personal assistant. What am I doing? This is ridiculous. I forgot I had these. I think it's going to be too late. Yeah. But if I get a personal assistant, I'm a putz, right? Like I am not in any way big time enough for personal assistant worthy. No, I'm not. Absolutely not. That is simply not possible. But man, I still think I could use one. I wonder if I'm going to try and submit these. I am going to try my very best. It's not going to work. It is not going to work. And someone's like, Tony, you have a wife. Two people said, you have a wife. Yes. You know what my wife is not? That kind of personal assistant. That's my marriage is pretty awesome. And I'm going to keep it that way because I know where certain divides should take place. So that's that. So there it is. No, these are not Von Reist receipts. Stop it. All right, let's see what else we got. Well, based on the midday numbers, it's not like the GDP is making the markets just catch fire. That is not what we're seeing. But 3%, that is something else, man. I'm sorry. That's an outrageously good number. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. 3% growth because that is fully involved in the tariffs, right? Even with the tariffs and everything else, here we are. I think that today's numbers and certainly by the time you know, if you've got the podcast version of this, we already know whether Jerome Powell has lowered interest rates, which these numbers kind of play into, which is to say, we're cooking with gas. Things are happening. And there is something here to grow and to capitalize on. And the movement of capital is the way to make that happen. You know, there's the argument, I think, originally is, well, maybe the interest rates stay up because the economy is too hot. I think even I have been disabused of that idea. No, there's a way to make things move with this. The question though is why tariffs and we've got this. That is very much something else. So I'm going to have much more on that subject to get to, much more on the numbers. But man, Jerome Powell is taking hit after hit after hit on not lowering interest rates as that decision will come today.
The Fed will make its interest rate decision today. Nobody expects them to cut rates today. Everybody thinks they're going to leave them unchanged. The chief executive of Azoria, that's James Fishback. Hey, James joins me now. James, you say Powell is disconnected from reality and that confidence in the Fed is crumbling. Those are strong words. Make your case, young man.
Well, good morning, Stuart. It turns out that Jerome Powell is simply the Anthony Fauci of economics.
Whoa.
Wrong, smug, and completely unaccountable. He's wrong, Stuart, because just last month he told us in his official projections that GDP was going to come in at 1.4%. It came in at 3%, more than double his expectations.
Yeah, that is wrong. That is absolutely wrong. But calling a guy the Anthony Fauci, that's just that. I once referred to who's the guy, the sports guy, Skip Bayless, producer Landon, Skip Bayless. I refer to Skip Bayless as the Jim Cramer of sports, which I thought was a pretty good dig. But Jerome Powell is the Anthony Fauci of economics. There's a guy who has to know the writings on the wall. Every gun is out. From the Wall Street Journal with a story today about how Federal Reserve governors are starting to speak out, and depending on what happens, will speak out regarding rates. You know, if you had asked me before the GDP at 3%, what do I think Jerome Powell is going to do? I think he keeps rates right where they are. I do. After the 3% GDP, I'm not 100% sure. I will tell you. I will tell you that it's certainly possible that he doesn't do anything, and I won't be surprised by it. But I'm telling you, the 3% number is something else here. Tariffs included, 3%, and an economy the size of ours. That is solid movement. And while we're going to bring it up a couple times today, it's worthy of bringing up in the future. I am starting to, as I discussed yesterday, I think China's in worse shape than we know. I think there's an economic reality as companies have moved out and moved manufacturing specifically to India, and there's an India story to get to. I think they're starting to see a level of unrest within the country with a population that's like, there are no jobs, there are no future, there is no future. Why am I even trying? I just want to paint and be silly all day. The dream of communism is an absolute nightmare, as we know. There's absolutely a continued crackdown on free speech and a people who want to engage information, share information. And that is in a constant level of tension. And then, of course, there's the population bust. As we know, it is coming. Based on the data, they're going to lose hundreds of millions of citizens. They have 1.3 billion people. But what if that is already happening? They built ghost cities because they wanted to give people jobs, but now they don't have anybody in the ghost cities. Have they gone the way of Japan? And now they're going to engage decades-long stagflation. And then, well, the very concepts of deflation, if that should come around. I think China's in a heap of trouble. And now you take a look at how the U.S. is growing. I think it's just pressure on pressure. 3% with tariffs. It's pretty dang good. Keep it here. It's Tony Katz today. All right. Dark Rogue. Interesting question. I'm aware of a bunch of things going on with the credit card business. So if you don't know, my father, a long time in the credit card processing business, the acquiring side. So if you're a business and you need to accept credit cards, I do that. You're like, Tony, I thought you do radio. He passed away. The business was still there. My mother is still alive and well. And so I have a responsibility to keep things going. So I do exactly that. So yes, 3 radio shows and that business and other things. Honestly, it beats just sitting around. I enjoy it. You can help business owners. It's cool. I love this kind of stuff. So the story out of Australia, if I understand it right, is there's a group called Collective Shout, which is Australian. They're an anti-porn group. I guess, I don't know. They're led by Tipper Gore. Beats me. Oh, Tipper Gore reference. Old school. And so they forced online games like or resources like Steam to remove adult themed games from their online stores. So they pushed Visa and MasterCard to say, hey, don't accept the payments for these games. This group, Collective Shout. Visa and MasterCard said, well, we won't process those games. These games got removed. Now people are like, hey, what the heck about free speech? Allow me for a minute. Visa and MasterCard are some draconian people, and their rules are out of control. And I say this knowing full well that I won't be surprised if they were like, I wonder who he works with. I wonder what banks he works with. I wonder what clients he has. Let's go cause them a problem. That is like Visa, MasterCard can be brought up in the same conversation as FIFA. I don't think they're taking bribes. I just think they're abusive in their rules. And the rules are arbitrary. What would you say, arbitrary and capricious? The rules don't make any sense. They are asking, are they a monopoly in financial transactions? Well, there's a lot of conversations about that idea. And what I would argue is maybe not, but it is clear that they want to be able to tell businesses how to run their business. And I don't believe they should be allowed any access or opportunity to do that. You can't have this fee. You can't make this statement. You have to put up this signage. No, you're not allowed to have this. Whoa. Now, what Visa MasterCard did to gun shop owners is a little different. So they wanted to have a separate category code, an MCC code, for gun shop owners, and therefore they could be tracking what things are sold, as opposed to sporting goods or some other kind of more generalized statement. Of course, that's wrong. And this was then going to be, oh, look at all these gun stores. Look at this. We should stop them from doing this, stop them from doing that. And of course, they would be wrong. So when we talk about the regulatory on Visa, MasterCard, I think you can see them as a level of monopoly. And certainly you can see them as flat out abusive. I see them as flat out abusive. And I want the abuse to end. I think we need the abuse to end. As a matter of fact, I don't know why the abuse hasn't ended. Anyway, that's Visa, MasterCard right there. Back to the show. So the tsunami did not do damage in the United States, but holy cow, 8.8 on the Richter. This was off the eastern coast of Russia and led to tsunami warnings across the Hawaiian Islands, pushing people to search for higher ground. And then these waves hit the western coast of the United States, California, all the way up through Oregon, Washington, through British Columbia. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Find everything I do over at TonyKatz.com. The live stream is there on the YouTube Tony Katz, Facebook Tony Katz Radio, on the Twitter X Tony Katz. Come be a part of it. Bring your friends. It'll be swell. I'm serving punch and pie. Hold on. I am out of punch and pie. Really something else, this quake. And at least from the early reports, doesn't seem to be anything that is overly damaging. It just seems to have been in the main, a lot of people lucked out and lucked out very, very well. Can I share this story? This was over at Hot Air. Do you mind? Thanks. There is a term called man keeping. It's a New York Times piece. Oh, don't worry. I'll get to the nonsense of the New York Times and their Hamas support coming up. It's Hamas support. I don't care really where you are. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think you should be supportive of Israel. But if somehow you're like, we shouldn't give financial aid to Israel, I'm not going to stop being your friend over it. I'll disagree with you. But if you support Hamas over Israel, well, then there's a real problem with the people who support Hamas over Israel. Those people, I don't think I want them in my house. If you support terrorists over society, you know what? We don't have to be friends. I'm cool. I'm down. I'm fine. It's all right. Why women are weary of the emotional labor of man keeping. As male social circles shrink, female partners say they have to meet more social and emotional needs. Interesting story. So this was a term coined, as Hot Air has the story, coined by a postdoctoral fellow at Stanford University, Angelica Puzio Ferrara. And it describes work women, it describes the work women do to meet the social and emotional needs of the men in their lives, from supporting their partners through daily challenges and inner turmoil to encouraging them to meet up with their friends. This is fascinating stuff. What is this story? Allow me. Just from the baseline. Society, and I swear to you, what I'm about to describe sounds like any sitcom you've ever watched on TV. Society came up with a rule that is as ignorant as it is pathetic. And that rule is happy wife, happy life. Allow me, if you are a woman who ascribes to this, I believe that's the right word, happy wife, happy life, I want you to know you should die alone. Now, Tony, that's that's a little rough. You shouldn't do that. You want me to clean it up? I'll clean it up. No one should marry you, and eventually your life will come to an end. Cats, seriously, you can't be saying things like, it's very rough, Tony. It's very rough stuff. You can't do that. All right, I'll try it. I'll try it again. What's wrong with you? What in the world is that happy wife, happy life? What an awful thing to say. What a selfish, angry, demoralizing, demeaning, vicious thing to say. May I ask why anybody would want to spend a lifetime with you if you have no interest in them? This concept has been built out in sitcoms in the world of Disney and other places culturally, where the guy is like, man, I really want to go to the bar and see the game with my friends, but what am I going to tell my wife? What if she's going to let me? First of all, let you? If you are in a relationship as a grown-up where you have to get your spouse's permission, you are not a grown-up and you are not in a worthwhile marriage. Now, there could be other things going on in your life. Hey, I've got these commitments. No, this is not a time for the game. This is a time for family. All those things are true. I've been through every one of those things. You're not allowed to go to watch the game with the guys? May I ask why you're married? Did you ever ask yourself, what was the point of marriage if somebody could think that that is an acceptable thing to say? I have been with the same woman for 33 years. I don't say I am a perfect man. I wouldn't argue that it's a perfect marriage. In that we've had issues. All people go through things. I would tell you what, if you ask me, though, if it's perfect, I will say it is the most exceptional marriage that the world has ever seen. That's how spectacular I feel about my relationship. In the 33 years that we have been together, the total amount of times I have checked her phone to see her texts, to see her emails, to see her phone calls, is zero, because I don't understand why any rational human being would do that with somebody they've committed to, or really anybody else. But we hear stories. You see stories. You see people talking about it. Let me check your phone. What do you mean? Check my phone? Kiss off. I'll go find somebody else. I'm not interested in being in a relationship with somebody who wants to check my phone, as if somehow, as a grown man, I need to be checked up on. As a grown woman, you think you need to be checked up on? That's weird as can be. That is awful. You know, as much as I say that is not a woman worth marrying, if there's a guy who's like, I need to know where you are, you have to tell me where you are every second of the day, you have to do. There are other guys out there. Yes, there are. There are other guys out there. But this kind of stuff leads to men not having the same relationships with other men that they used to. Add on to this, all the feminist lowlifes out there. Oh, see, that one I'm not apologizing for at all. I meant that. Every bit of that. You can quote me on that. The last name is spelled K-A-T-Z. Go get them. All these feminists who said, well, it's not okay to have men-only spaces. And you eliminated the ability for men to be around other men and speak like men do. And we do. And we speak differently than when we're around women. I have had to teach this to my kids. The things you say to your buddies is different than the things you say to your mother. And if you don't understand it at first, that's okay. You just have to do it. You will learn to understand it. We'll walk ourselves through it. But if you take away the spaces for men to engage with other men, they don't engage with other men. But they still have certain levels of need. And now, yes, it goes to their spouse, because societally, you took them away from everybody who was a man who they could then engage with, share ideas with, and have conversations with, have moments with. What? This doesn't happen? Of course this happens. Of course this happens. And the women who are in the happier relationships, the happiest of relationships, the happiest of marriages, are women who absolutely understand that the men in their lives need their own time to do their own thing. Very often, the women need to as well. Now, maybe it comes to different levels of degrees, different people, but they absolutely need their own time with their own friends to do their own thing. And if the trust isn't there, that doesn't happen. So therefore, if there's no trust, there is no happiness. You cannot have happiness without trust. It doesn't exist. Why are you unhappy with your government? Taxes. Okay. Put taxes to the side. You don't trust the government. That's why there's no happiness with the government. And taxes are, of course, a reason. How can you trust somebody who keeps thinking they're allowed to steal from you? Without trust, you cannot have happiness. Can't be done. Cannot be accomplished. And look at all the work that the feminists and others have done to say you can't have trust. Guys are guilty of this as well. And then, oh, you can't go out with the guys here. You can't do this with the guys there. Toxic masculinity here. What do you think is going to happen? A 2021 survey says 15% of men said they didn't have any close friends, up from 3% in 1990. The same report showed that in 1990, nearly half of young men said they would reach out to friends when facing a personal issue. And then 2 decades later, just over 20% said the same. They don't have men in their lives. And by the way, young men don't have men in their lives who show them how to have conversations, how to engage debate, how to bring ideas forward, to be able to understand what criticism is, to learn how to accept that criticism and grow from it. They aren't taught how to be men. And so what happens? They become more and more feminized because they're only around women. You know who has this conversation better than anybody? Quite literally better than anybody? Black men. There are some really incredible talks going on social media. We should find some and bring them on the show. If there's no male figure in your life and you are a man and you have only been raised by women, your aunt this and your grandmother this and your cousin, and if you only have women around you, how do you learn to act like a man? How does that happen? And you could argue, well, Tony, yes, you're bringing this up culturally about black men. What I'm saying to you is that this story, what it says to me, is about all men. They don't have other men in their lives, so therefore young men don't have other men because dad doesn't have friends over so they can speak to other men and learn how other men talk and engage, and men are different than women, and men also can never be women. That's a unique thing. I bet you didn't know. Men cannot be women and women cannot be men, and people who say so are wrong, and they're wrong, and they're wrong, and they should be told that they're wrong. Interesting story. I've got it there on the show sheet over at TonyKatz.com from Hot Air, which goes through a real kind of detailed conversation of this. It's interesting. It's interesting, but all of this is what feminism brings. Feminism is trash, and so are feminists. Quote me. I'm Tony Katz. All right. Yeah, feminism is trash. Just is. I apologize for nothing. Absolutely nothing. Yes. So I'm getting on a plane in a few hours, so plane crashes do not make me happy. Hey, we all have our things. Welcome back, everybody. Tony Katz today. We were just talking about planes. So there was a single engine plane crash in just south of Indianapolis that just took place in a town called Greenwood, behind a gas station. I mean, very, very, very fortunate that it didn't hurt more people. One person is dead, and I'm sorry to hear that for sure. And you may have caught me discussing. I was going over with producer Landon. Yes, feminism is trash. It is. I apologize for nothing. But I'm doing some traveling, and last thing I want to hear about is plane crashes. That's the last thing I want to hear about, for sure. Let me see what else we got. I will get into it's a story about Megyn Kelly, Pod Save America, the New York Times, and Israel. And I'm gonna break it all down because some of it's madness and some of it's real disagreement. I think a major mistake from Megyn, and it needs to be addressed. And then, of course, the people who are still upset about Sydney Sweeney, it's probably the feminists, which are trash. Where here it was. This was a post from, if you don't follow Iowa Hawk blog on Twitter, David Burge, he's very, very good. Very, very good. You've got people who now want to talk about the fact that they've got Sydney Sweeney doing these ads for American Eagle, and American Eagle is owned by a guy who's one of the largest donors to Jewish causes. So now they've tied the most shiksa woman in all of America to the Jews. Is there nothing these right woke or leftist freaks won't do? I'm pretty sure this account is run by Candace Owens. Back to the show. According to the studies, if you take the Ozempic, if you take the Wegovy, it can increase testosterone levels and help your sex life.
Yes! 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 Oh! 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 Oh, God. Oh.
Yep. Tony Katz today. How you doing? Excuse me while I take my injection. Well, that's a story. It is weird at this stage of the game, the number of things that they say these GLP-1 type drugs are helping with. And certainly we're going to see in the years ahead, people who have taken these things regularly, and these people are studied, what level of side effect exists. I won't be surprised. I don't think anybody should be surprised if that should come to be like, hey, we learned this happens. I'm not going to be surprised by that. But when you take a study of 110 men with obesity or type 2 diabetes, they're taking GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy. Is that Zepbound as well? Or is it Mounjaro? I don't know which one is which in that one. And they take a look at them taking these GLP-1 medications, but not taking testosterone. 18 months of treatment, the average age 54. What they saw was that in addition to weight loss, the proportion of men with normal levels of both total and free testosterone rose from 53% to 77%. So is the GLP-1 itself helping with that, or is the weight loss helping with that? So the argument is from St. Louis University Hospital. Our study is among the first to provide compelling evidence that low testosterone can be reversed with the use of commonly prescribed anti-obesity medications. The real story in this is all the insurance companies who are like, no, we're not gonna cover that. Nope. I don't care if it's been, prescribed by your doctor. I don't know. No, it doesn't matter that they've called in 7 times. No, we're not gonna cover that. That's probably the biggest thing right now. And for all these companies, you've got people who are willing to pay. Don't get me wrong, but you're going to have to ask yourself, we have this many people willing to pay the top dollar, but we've got this many people willing to pay the smaller dollar. Maybe it makes more sense. But also there's going to be a real pushback on insurance companies. Why aren't you covering this? My doctor says, who are you? That's going to come. But I mean, at this stage of the game, there doesn't seem to be anything that these drugs aren't doing to be helpful. The only thing they're really doing, that I know of to harm is the bourbon industry is down. People drink less when they're on these medications. And so many people are on these medications that they're drinking less. And so, yes, the bourbon industry has been affected by other things but by this as well. Be sure you head over to TonyKatz.com and subscribe and like and do all the things. More is coming up. This is Tony Katz Today. Right on. Cutting calories intakes becomes more effective if you're on the drugs, which of course you're taking in less calories. Jennifer says weight loss, loss of muscle, loss of gastroparesis. First of all, I don't think you're allowed to curse like that on this show, right? I think that's just wrong. Wrong right there. But I will tell you that I don't know if it necessarily means a loss of muscle. And by the way, if somebody wants to put me in a fighter jet, I would do it. I do not have. The saddest thing about my life is that I don't have a private plane. That's all I want. All I want is a private plane. Nothing more, nothing less. Oh, just a dream. But it must have jet engines. For me, it's just my own freakiness. Plenty of people I know do have propeller ones, and they're like, it's great, like King Airs and stuff like that. Stuff's good. Who am I to say? I'm just saying, if you have a private jet, we should be friends, like now, right away. We take the radio break right now, so we take the break right here. More is coming up. Do not go anywhere. I've got a lot on this Israel conversation to get to, because people are they're just not able to just be normal. And man, some people are being weak when they shouldn't be. Keep it here. More is coming up. I'm Tony Katz. It's Tony Katz Today. Be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Glad that you are here. Excuse me. Ooh. Oh, what was that? Oh, jeepers. Oh, that hurt. Yep. Gonna live. So I'm gonna be gone for a couple days. Kira Davis is gonna be sitting in the big chair for me. You can read her latest over there at the New York Post. I don't know when she started. She started doing that like last week. She's writing for the Post. I'm like, that is super groovy. You should do that. If I knew how to write, I would write. Not so much a writer. I can do this, but not so much of a writer. Not so much my thing right there. So she will be in. I gotta block somebody who thought that the chat room was there for their advertising purposes. People. So we do have a lot to get to, and I'm happy to do that. Let me just get some things together right here, and we'll go from there. Okay. Okay, that's right there. Okay, now I've got it all. Nope, can't do that. It's a little bit of a tease right there, what we're going to talk about. Yes. Trusting the New York Times is a mistake. One could argue impossible. Tony Katz today, I'm going to walk you through a couple of pieces here in regards to Israel. Now, I should be full disclosure, and I am. I am absolutely a Zionist. I apologize for absolutely nothing. Israel's right to exist, Israel's right to defend itself, that it is and always has been Israel, unquestionable. I have no issue with Palestinians having a place to call their own. I have an issue with Palestinians supporting terrorists, quote unquote, electing terrorists, and being part of the October 7th attacks that murdered 1,200 people and set babies on fire. I don't forgive it. Now, maybe it's not for me to forgive, but I don't forgive it and I don't forget it. And I understand who is responsible, and that is Hamas, and they are guilty. And the world will be better off when every member of Hamas is dead. Not because I want to go on the attack. I want to be left alone. I've often made the statement that I want to have a steak, smoke a cigar, and have sex with my wife. And sometimes I don't even want steak. In every way, I just want to be left alone. Yet I've got these Islamists who don't want to leave anybody alone, who couldn't accept a peace deal in 48, who couldn't accept losing the 6-Day War, who couldn't accept losing the Yom Kippur War, who can't accept the fact that they are the impediments to peace time and time and time again. And yet somehow, in a world filled with bigots, it's always Israel that's the problem. With all due respect, that isn't the case. This is the lie that gets told and repeated again and again and again. And you see the support that Hamas gets, which brings us to the New York Times, where I started. The New York Times cannot be trusted. They put on the cover of the New York Times, as if it's somehow all the news that's fit to print, they put a picture of a very, very sickly boy. They said that this was the situation in Gaza. Starvation everywhere. The picture of this boy, and this boy looks sick, and this boy looks emaciated, and this boy, you could see his ribs through his skin. And it is absolutely horrific. And they said, this is what Israel is doing to the people of Gaza. This photo then got a correction. And the New York Times on their social media feed wrote, "We recently ran a story about Gaza's most vulnerable civilians, including this boy who is about 18 months old and suffers from severe malnutrition." They continued, "We have since learned new information, including from the hospital that treated him and his medical records, and we have updated our story to add context about his pre-existing health problems." Oh, so he isn't being starved. There are a series of issues with this boy that are leading to this moment. I mean, well, it's terrible for the boy, but why didn't you do this investigation before you posted the photo? Why didn't the New York Times check before they posted the photo? And maybe you could have looked at one of the photos that shows another boy next to him, as this boy is in what ostensibly would be his mother's arms. There's another boy there, could be his brother, and that boy looks perfectly fine, totally healthy, not emaciated, strong, like a young boy. How is he fed? And yet this boy in the mother's arms, totally emaciated. Why would the New York Times allow this to happen? Well, the only reason to allow this to happen is because you are absolutely taking the side of Hamas, and that is unacceptable, indecent, disgusting, and despicable. And if you trust the New York Times, there is no possible way for you to get an honest, clear story. To support the New York Times is to say, I'll throw in with the worst of the worst, the most dangerous, the most awful, the most manipulative, and I'll do it with a smile. And then you'll take the New York Times and you'll look at this and say, that terrible story. How dare you write that story or read that story or print that story, and shame on you. And then you'll read the next story and you'll believe it all. That's called the Gell-Mann effect. You read a story, you know that it's false, it's proven a lie, but the next story you read in the same exact publication, you're like, oh, well, that's very interesting, like it's believable. Everything that you have heard regarding the starvation in Gaza is the fault of Hamas. Every last bit of it. I don't say to you that the Israeli military does everything perfectly. This is not my argument. The IDF is far from perfect. The IDF, however, is pushing out video showing how the UN is not getting the food to people, how Hamas, this terrorist organization where every member needs to be killed. Sorry, if you got some kind of problem with that, I don't think I'm the show for you, but I'm pretty sure that Candace Owens is doing something you would love to listen to. Hamas steals the food. Hamas doesn't care if its people starve. They don't care. And yet all this blame to Israel. I've got Mike Huckabee, who is the U.S. ambassador to Israel, saying the UN is to blame for Gaza hunger, not Israel.
Will attest to the fact that there is humanitarian food efforts going on. You recently had Ken Isaacs from Samaritan's Purse on. I watched the interview that you did with him. It was wonderful. Ken actually went into Gaza and embedded for 3 days with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation and found that there were people being fed. The UN, unfortunately, wouldn't help GHF. They had 900 trucks full of food sitting undelivered, sitting in the sun rotting. Other so-called humanitarian organizations had pallets of food, thousands, that would have fed people for 2 years. The problem has been that the UN has been sitting on its hands rather than using its hands to pass out the food.
That's the U.S. ambassador to Israel, explaining the situation as it is. But this doesn't change the minds. Facts don't change the minds of ideologues. If you don't know what Pod Save America is, it is a podcast, and it is a popular podcast, and it's run by the guys who were all there with Obama. all these Obama bros, Tommy Vidor, who I think is despicable, and a host of others. It's not that they're not allowed to have a different opinion than me. It's that their opinions are very often of a radical nature. These are the people who I view as anti-American, and the subject of Israel. And on Democrats, they think that they're being intellectual.
And I don't think Democratic candidates should take money from AIPAC or vote to fund military support for Israel anymore. Like, I really don't. In this government, absolutely not. And that especially includes, I think, the next Democratic nominee for president.
Things I want to see Democrats at least calling for is cutting off military assistance to Israel. It's a rich country, by the way. They don't need our $3 billion a year. And hands up, right? Barack Obama signed a 10-year MOU for $3.3 billion a year. Like, so we're part of the problem here. Let's correct it. I would like to see talk about sanctioning Israeli government officials who use genocidal rhetoric or who talk about ethnic cleansing openly. We should support a ceasefire resolution at the UN. We should demand that international press be allowed into the Gaza Strip to report on what's happening without an IDF minder. It's insane. The press still can't go into Gaza and cover what's happening. And I also think, like, there has to be a total mindset change in the Democratic Party. When the war ends, we are not going back to the pre-October 7th status quo, because it's not where the party is. It's not where
we know that's not where the party is. We understand that the Democratic Party, Tommy, is an anti-Semitic, anti-Western civilization party. You may disagree with me and be like, my gosh, that's a level of overkill. Notice you don't have any argument from me if you aren't interested in giving financial aid to Israel. A lot of people not interested in giving financial aid to Israel. And a lot of people not interested in giving financial aid. Okay. I don't fault you for thinking that that shouldn't happen. That could be part of a much larger conversation. But we're not going back to an October 7th, a pre-October 7th. What does that even mean? The bigotry of the left is a mainstream bigotry. When we talked about this the other day with the chicks on the right. When you look at Candace Owens or Tucker or Dave Smith, these people get pushback from the political right. The pushback from the left is zero. It's mainstream to the bigotry. This is an argument about whether or not Israel can even defend itself. And this argument wouldn't hold for any other country. It doesn't hold in any other capacity or any other context. And their like-minded fellow travelers, the New York Times, are willing to lie and manipulate and edit photos, imagery, iconography to push this idea. So the Democratic Party isn't going back? No kidding, boo-boo. You are here. You are right where you are in the loving embrace of Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and Louis Farrakhan. We see you. We know what you're about. But I will tell you that I was most disappointed to see this from Megyn Kelly. I don't like or not like Megyn Kelly. I've never met Megyn Kelly. I go back to the first run for president by Trump and the debate from Megyn Kelly, where Megyn Kelly was the debate moderator. I thought she was terrible. Did a fine show. She was terrible. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. Then you take a look at what happened to her at NBC, and NBC was abusive to Megyn Kelly. And I don't think Megyn Kelly got enough support from the rest of us regarding what was happening there. We took a look at what had happened in that debate, and she left Fox and goes to NBC. We're like, well, now you deserve what you get. I don't think she deserved everything she got over at NBC. Not at all. Not by any stretch of the imagination. Now she's got the podcast, and now she's on, I think it's Sirius Satellite, and she's building this. She just hired Hope Hicks. That's right. From Trump One, that Hope Hicks. But she goes on Piers Morgan's show. And, well, this is the conversation.
I'm always reluctant to put too much stock in the images coming out of Gaza, that phrase, because they're manipulated and they're masters of propaganda, and they're fine having their own children starve just as long as they can put them on camera and show them off to the world. That's Hamas. And frankly, it's a lot of Palestinians. So
now, that's absolutely correct. The people of Hamas, these despicable low-life terrorists who should be destroyed, don't care if their own people die. If Israelis die, they win. If their own people die, they win. They are sick. They are dangerous. They are awful for all of humanity. And the rational person doesn't want them to be like this, but they're going to keep being like this. Well, then they have to lose, and we, the rational people, have to win. Megyn now makes a turn.
So I'm very skeptical of taking those images at face value and saying it's Israel's fault. Having said that, it's time. It's time now. Israel, whether it realizes it or not, has made itself the villain of the world in letting this thing go on so long. They have lost support amongst their dearest friends. And even the entire Democrat Party here in the United States has turned against them, and they're losing Republicans by the day here in America, which is their most important ally. So whether the fight continues to be just or not is almost irrelevant. As Trump said when he was running this time last year, not yet elected, time to wrap it up. And that's how I feel, too. And I've given Israel a long berth. I fully understand, as an American who was attacked on 9/11, my country was that, when you attack the United States and you kill thousands of our citizens, and Israel was in this position on 10/7, it's fine to respond, and it doesn't have to be proportionate. Whoever said it has to be proportionate? It can be overwhelming force to teach a lesson to any enemy. You mess with us, it's going to be extremely painful, disproportionately painful for you. I have no problem with that. But what Israel's doing now is losing its standing with the rest of the world.
It sounds like you do have a problem with it, Megyn, but let's start where we start. What makes you think they had a standing before? No. They didn't have a standing before. They were hated before. They were hated before, and they're hated now. You're losing what? The support of Marjorie Taylor Greene? Marjorie Taylor Greene is wrong. Man, if Israel only had those space lasers, everything would be okay. Lost the support of Thomas Massie? Losing the support of whom? And for what reason? For what purpose? Because of the lies of the New York Times discussing starvation? At least President Trump understands that you can't let Hamas, through all this and then say there should be a Palestinian homeland. You can't let Hamas win like that. You can't give them that victory. It will tell them to commit more acts of terrorism, which is true. Israel already knows they don't have friends, and that the friendship with the United States is tenuous at best. Not because they don't want it to, not because they want it to be, but because progressives have moved more and more to the Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Louis Farrakhan camp. Like the Obama bros there at Pod Save America. Wrap it up? I don't think you get to decide that, Megyn. I think you're making a very, very large mistake. I think it is up to us, the rational people, the free and thinking people, to be far more in favor of Israel's ending this. I think you got to understand that what the world may be saying, but you got to understand that you can't survive if these people survive. You still have your people being held hostage. And this because Marjorie Taylor Greene is upset? Megyn, that is not a rational point of view. That's not even an argument. That's you're tired of seeing something. I think the Israelis are more tired. And I think the Israelis should decide when this is done. And in the paraphrase of Menachem Begin, they're really clear. They're not going to bend a knee. If they have to go it alone, they will. But I think you're making a very big mistake, Megyn, and I think you have really a bad argument and a weak argument. We'll discuss it more in the future. I'm Tony Katz. Welcome back, Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. What is going on? I don't expect any response from Megyn Kelly. Please don't get me wrong. She's just wrong here. Israel already doesn't have support. Israel's friendship with the United States is outrageously important, but there are some people who play in this new populism, this woke right nonsense, and no, they're not supportive. But this is not where the party is, and certainly not where people are. And I think that this is not only a misunderstanding from Megyn. I think that this is about her. That's how it comes to me. This is about her just not having the stomach for it anymore. Who wants to have the stomach for any of this? I think that's a fine question. Who the bloody heck wants the stomach for this stuff? Not me. And I would argue not them. But it is very clear that the Israelis don't care if Megyn is happy. They don't. They don't care in the slightest. They are going to do this, and they're going to end Hamas until they are ended. These are the facts. It's not really deniable. So Megyn's I think Megyn's got the wrong read on this. The wrong take and the really, truly it's a miss. It's a big miss from her. I'll leave it there. I don't know, maybe one day we'll get to speak. And again, like I'm getting people like, no, Megyn makes a valid point. There has to be an end to this, whatever that end looks like. Whatever that end looks like. No, that's exactly the problem. It can only end one way. Otherwise, it isn't over. Am I the only person who kind of gets the finality conversation here? What it is that everyone's dealing with? Goodness gracious. Back to the show. A quick follow-up. The quick follow-up is this this post. Who is Elijah Schaefer on the Twitter X? Well, let me see if I can find Elijah Schaefer. There. Let's see. Who is this dude? The CEO of the Rift TV. I have no idea who this dude is, but here just as a putting a little bit of a final bloop on that story there about Megyn Kelly. Fun facts: the CEO of American Eagle is J.L. Schottenstein. American Eagle. This is a story about Sydney Sweeney and the whole jeans. Remember, she did the ads for American Eagle. And she's wearing the blue jeans. People are like, this is Nazi propaganda. It's like, oh, holy heck. Everyone's crazy. Liberals don't know how to have a good time. Hot chick in jeans. Yeah, very American. Apple pie American right there. So this guy writes, fun facts. The CEO of American Eagle is J.L. Schottenstein, one of the largest donors to Jewish causes. Previously, the company was founded by Mark and Jerry Silverman. American Eagle has focused on supporting Israeli holidays, including giving free ad space to Chabad, which is an organization of Jews trying to get people to be more Jewish, I guess is the best way to put it. So you telling me that first it was Sydney Sweeney, the actress, engaging in Nazi propaganda for saying, my family gave me great jeans, when they're talking about jeans, like what she's wearing. So first it was Nazi propaganda, and next, this is really all just some kind of unique cabal put forth by the Jews. And you spell Jews with 17 O's right there. I No matter which way you turn, these people have got a we see the connection moment. My God. The amount of people who need to, well, I can't say that on air, but you know what they need to do and relax. It's a lot of people. I don't know where they're going to find somebody, but that's their problem. I'm Tony Katz. Good Lord. People are surreal. Absolutely surreal. I don't know what the rift is. I have no it's independent journalism. Okay. Sure. Whatever it is you say. I hope it works out for you. Guys, I appreciate you. I got to run. You've got Keira Davis in the chair Thursday and Friday. So enjoy every bit of that at WIBC.com. You want to go to WIBC.com and you will be able to hear the show, stream the show from there. I appreciate you. Can't thank you enough for being here. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to follow in all the places. YouTube, Tony Katz, Instagram, Twitter, Tony Katz, or X, whatever you want to call it. Facebook, Tony Katz Today. I appreciate it if you would. I will catch you all tomorrow, guys. You take care. No, I'll catch you Monday. Show does continue tomorrow, though. Take care.